Welcome to Season 4 of Everything is Learning. This season, we're celebrating neurodivergent people, their stories, strengths, challenges, and the powerful ways they learn and live. Because honoring every individual's brain and lived experience makes the world a better place for everybody. We're excited you're here. Let's dive in.
Hello. This season, we've had the privilege of sitting across from some truly remarkable voices. Parents, advocates, creators, and changemakers, each helping us see neurodiversity through a new lens. Together, we've explored what it means to lead with empathy, to parent with curiosity, and to show up authentically and unapologetically for ourselves and our families. As we close out the season, we're reflecting on the stories and lessons that stayed with us long after we hit stop on the recorder. Hi, Lane. Glad to be here to talk through all of our awesome guests that we've had and the things that we've learned.
This has been by far my favorite season, not just because of the people we had on, but also because of the amount of people who have said, thank you for making us feel heard, for making us feel seen, and for pushing us to talk about things that we maybe weren't so comfortable talking about beforehand. And I think I feel like a completely different person with completely different perspectives on things. And I'm just really excited to continue to learn more about neurodivergence and continue to grow and have more amazing people on and have a lot of our guests back, because how incredible were these people this
Seriously.
season? We lucked out.
We really did. And the fact that they had so much that we could learn from. I mean, not for nothing, the whole notion of everything is learning, we expect to learn from everyone, but the depth of the content that we talked about and like what I was actually able to apply to my own life. And some of them feel like friends, with this particular topic, it hits so close to home because it's intertwined and part of the identity and the fabric of my family. So this is like a passion project. Yes, exactly. Yeah. This is a passion project for me, and that's what made it so easy to want to talk to these people and talk about this topic. And I also love that because we're so eager and curious that they were able to open up in the way that they did. I mean, take Kirby, for example. First of all, talk about a role model for all men, let alone all parents. And the great thing about this is all the things that he's been able to do even just after talking with us. So I recently saw on LinkedIn, Got Fortitude is now an affiliate of the Arc of Illinois. That's a huge deal.
So huge.
And I mean, it's nice that people are seeing the impact that he has. And I know it made my husband feel a little less lonely. Like, he's part of the Facebook group, but it made my husband feel a little less lonely and potentially even more seen. That isn't the word that he's using. I'm definitely talking for him, and which isn't exactly the best thing to do given what Kirby's message is. But the reality is, like, I know that by seeing another dad care so deeply and that the message resonates, like that small wins matter and baby steps matter, and it's okay not to be okay all the time, and that there are other resources and other people feeling similarly. It's like less lonely that way. And Kirby just is a awesome personality and brand and aesthetic that really authentically touches on that.
Yeah. I think the thing that I loved most was his talk of the importance of meditation and personalizing strategies. I think that he helped me to realize how important it was to just take mental health into account when you are navigating neurodivergence. And I don't think a lot of people put that at the forefront. And I know in past seasons we've talked about when you talk about health, it's mind, body, soul, it's everything. It's all encompassing. And if healthcare were to radically change to come to a person as a full person, I think that Kirby kind of propels that message that health is not just your physical being. And I really loved that, and I do hope that there are, um, dads who are out there who connect with Kirby, because I think that they will feel seen and less alone. So I loved that. Another bomb ass parent that we had on was Sydney. And
Yes.
so here's the thing about Sydney. She's neurodivergent, husband's neurodivergent, children are neurodivergent. She ends up like sharing so openly about everything. And I think that that's one theme that it's somebody, I think Annika talked about it too, was there seems to be some element of being neurodivergent where when you feel safe in an environment, you're willing to share everything. And I think people, like, we're neurotypical people. I'm a neurotypical person talking about that. But
Mhm.
I definitely go into situations where I'm like, you have to earn my trust. You have to make me feel safe over time. And I think Sydney just comes at it with, this is my story. This is how I navigate. We need to start personalizing vacations more. We need to help people
Absolutely.
navigate in the world that is not necessarily made for these children, for me. She's talking about sensory overload. She's talking about, making
Yeah, but also
family vacations happen, making
accessible,
magic.
absolutely,
Right,
for sure, and but what feels fun or what your kids are gonna wanna do is not what my kids are gonna wanna do, and so when
right,
the notion of, it being a first off, she comes at it being vulnerable right from the start, which I
right.
think allows for the shared vulnerability, and I wish that that was true of every space that I've ever been in. But
I'm
yes,
human.
exactly. The personalization piece is like she touches on, okay, what is going to not only work for your family, but that you actually want to do. And so when I we're going to be traveling for holidays. And so I used her sensory guide to think through what this that travel will be like and is like for my family, what it has been in the past. And that I'm accounting for my family and less focused on doing it all versus making sure that I'm prioritizing what it is that I want to do. And
Right.
like how is that going to impact how my kids react? So are they familiar with this place or is it going to be new? Are the people we're gonna see there familiar or new? And, like, taking that approach also opened my eyes to a lot of things. So from, like, an actual logistic standpoint, I learned a lot. But from a personal standpoint too on how do I get people to feel safe in sharing, like, the
Mm.
whole notion of the "don't be a prick" thing, that still that makes me laugh. That was, like, a pretty key takeaway, and I love the sense of humor that she brings because,
Yeah.
it's a heavy topic sometimes what you're talking about, and the fact is that a lot of the reason families are going to her is because this seems like such an insurmountable feat. It
Right.
it is
Going
like
on vacation with your neurodivergent family.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I could
I
just stay
I
at
love
home and
that.
not spend money and know exactly what I'm getting, but then I miss
Right.
out on these experiences, and if you
So do
never
the
do it,
kids. Right.
right, and if you never do it, never becomes easy. You never will, like, you never can,
Right.
and you have to push past that comfort zone. She makes it so easy to do or, like,
Yeah.
desirable to do.
Yeah. I love that she also said, besides the don't be a prick thing that she says to her son, she also talks about how she delivers everything with a spoonful of sugar. Did you see her kids' Halloween costumes, by the way?
Oh,
One of them was
no. Architect.
actually um Julie Andrews from, oh
Oh,
gosh.
yeah, Mary Poppins.
Yes, yeah. It was adorable. It was adorable.
That's
But
fantastic.
yeah, that was so great. And her services, just again to remind everybody, her services are free. If you just don't even know what to do or don't even know where to start, like, just contact Sydney or contact us and we'll put
Absolutely.
you in touch. She's
There you go.
wonderful.
Yep.
Um
Travel is achievable.
Travel is achievable. I love that.
And then Danae, oh, my
Oh, I
goodness.
love
What a
Danae.
beautiful spirit.
What? Yes. And so here's something that I have had the luxury of not having to think about. I
Okay,
have, maybe that's not it. I've never thought about it. Let's just
okay.
say this. I had never met somebody who was neurodivergent and talks about sobriety.
Mm,
Those two have never intersected for me before. I've never thought about it. I've never thought about um, what that must be like. And when she talked about her experience and not knowing and navigating and being numb and having faith, and it just it was just astounding. She is incredible. She is writing a book I just saw recently too.
awesome.
Um
Can't wait for that.
I know. I she's just incredible. Like talking about I just couldn't get over the fact that I had never thought about the complications of people who have to navigate. I mean, I personally, and you know this, like we have had family members and friends who have navigated substance abuse, and how challenging that's been. But to then say on top of it, like my brain works even more differently. So I really need to figure out a way that works best for me. I love her threads. If I love anything, I love her threads. Her threads are so amazing. She reminds you to breathe. She talks about how you're beautifully and wonderfully made in a million different ways. I mean, she's just an inspiration, and I just adore her. I really do.
I love everything you said. I did not know she was writing a book, but I cannot wait to read that. For me, my big takeaway was like how faith and belief are intertwined in my relationship with myself as a caregiver and of that of
Mm,
my beautiful children. And I appreciate it because I haven't met a ton of neurodivergent people that talk about faith. So this was
that's
a
true.
unique experience for me in that regard. But to your point about um the sobriety piece, yeah, that's a first for me as well, and I am grateful that she was so willing and open to talk about that, because that's, um, potentially not an easy piece to relive or rediscuss, and,
Right.
she was willing to do that, and she talked about her growth from that, and I think that's another piece is, like, so, I know we've talked about shame and guilt before, even in prior seasons, but, like, she used it as learning and growth, and that like, that reframe is really critical and a key piece. And then we spoke with Carolyn, who I have to say my whole mindset shift happened after Carolyn, and I only say that because of the notion of I take for granted, even as whether I'm neurotypical or not, I take for granted of, like, how quick and easy and integral and innate um, it is to just, like, make an assumption on a first impression, and then
Oh
I
yeah, with
took
her podcast Beyond 6 Seconds. Yeah.
for sure, and then I took a look at, like, what would if I'm in a grocery store I've literally actually thought about this in the line to get pick up prescriptions. If I am a stranger looking at my own children, never having met them before, what would this experience say about them? Same with if we're at swim class, because I've had to potentially drag miles into the water, to in order to engage in a swim lesson, or like if we're I'm trying to think of like school first impression or um man, I guess we don't go that many places.
I
But
mean, no, I get what you're saying though.
when you're in
It
a new environment and meeting my children for the first time, I think my youngest would have you believe he's like the cutest, most sweetest, precious individual, angelic individual on the planet. And then if you actually got to know him a little bit longer, you know he's quite sassy and not quite as angelic as he's perceived. Versus the other, where it's like Miles looks unaffected and indifferent and not engaged, but like he has a heart of gold. And both
yeah,
my kids do, but it's just the perception that you might get after just meeting someone for 6 seconds. And some of that has to do with eye contact, which is
right,
totally a privileged option. And
right.
this
Eye
season in
contact is
particular,
BS.
yeah, well, it really made me rethink that, and so I've had to do some interviews lately because 'cause we've had some open positions at work, and I just like, I approach things very differently now after having connected with Carolyn, and I very much appreciate her for that.
Oh my gosh, she inspired me so much. So you talked about work, and I didn't even think to talk about this piece, but So right after we met with Carolyn, my husband had been prepping for his like massive presentation in front of hundreds of people that he does like once a year for his job. And Carolyn had talked about how, she offers headphones or she offers different options for how you can interact when she does presentations. And so his my husband's boss was talking to him about how she wanted to do things that were more interactive. And I was like, you don't even understand. I was like, go and listen to Carolyn's episode with us and look at her podcast, Beyond 6 Seconds. And I legitimately want you to listen to what this woman says because you should be accommodating everybody in that room, especially with so many people. So, of course, it's one of those things where when people are not trained or don't know, it was a learning experience, let's just say that. It was a positive learning
Okay.
experience where people had to become curious and question and grow, and Carolyn led to that, and I just major props. Like, everybody should be doing that. Everyone should be offering headphones, different kinds of assistive technology, quiet space to interact, record something so that people could go back and re-listen to it, offer notes. Like that, it sounds like a lot, but it really is an extra 5 minutes worth of effort. And not
Absolutely. Especially with the technology we have now.
right.
It's not as big a lift.
Like captions. Just put captions. Just do it. It's not that hard. It goes up on a screen. Like, figure it out. Everyone can figure it out. It's really not that challenging. Um, and then the other thing that I was really inspired by is Carolyn gives voices to people who communicate in different ways. And I
Yes.
am in awe. I want to have you and I grew up with people in the ASL and deaf community, hard of hearing and deaf community. I I would love to have someone come on, and I would love to have an interpreter, and, I've worked with parents, and I've worked with families, and it didn't even occur to me to do that, and it's not because I wasn't thinking that they'd be an intriguing guest, it was just I didn't I didn't think about it and I haven't seen it before. And I think that that's the thing that I keep coming back to this season is just because I haven't had experience with it, just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen. Or
For
someone
sure.
with
Absolutely.
an AAC device. I'd love to have someone on who could teach us more. Um and what are some of the other things that Miles is using right now? It's
Sign, PECs.
PEX,
You could do
PEX.
letterboard.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that would be great. Like, even just exposing people to what it looks like. I think that's happening more. I
sure.
loved around Halloween. I loved that people made trick or treat signs. I
Yeah, we
love that
did
they made
that for sure.
bracelets. It was so great.
Mhm.
Um
Yeah.
I actually just noticed for the first time at our swim lessons, at the rec center, they have a huge board. I never saw it. My
Oh,
kids just
yeah.
ran up to it. It's massive. I was like, that should be on every playground. That should be in every school. That
It
should
is
be in
oh,
every classroom.
there's lots of playgrounds that have that now. Yeah,
I
I think
know,
that's
and especially
awesome,
in New
and
York
that's where
State,
I
which is
first
so great.
experienced it.
Yeah, but it's
Yes.
amazing. It should be
Yes.
everywhere. So I loved that with Carolyn. Um, just
And,
amazing. And
um
we all support each other now, and we've become friends with her. And
yeah,
I really just adore her and everything that she's doing. Please go look at her podcast, listen to her podcast, Beyond 6 Seconds. It's amazing, transformative.
for sure. Absolutely. And then we had Allison, who, is supportive of the different systems, especially how they work with ADHD brains and for neurodivergent families like mine. And I
Mhm.
loved that conversation. Unfortunately, most of my spaces still look like a walking to do list. But one of the things that I have done since the conversation is that every day since then, I have thrown away one thing, which was really easy because, like, I had things that I was holding on to that were ripped or torn or damaged. And then, or I've given away an item per day. But like my next step is once I can like sustain that habit because some days I'm not gonna lie, like, I might have skipped a day and then had to back and do 2 things. And then
Mhm.
some days I'm like, "Oh, nope, this whole thing is gonna go." So, it's 1 plus, but the goal is then to identify a box, a shelf, a cabinet, a drawer, and then tidy up that space. But, I would not have done that without some level of motivation and, like, customization or personalization because, like, that's what works for me. But,
Mhm.
there's some people who wanna attack it more aggressively. I don't have the means to do that because of the way my life is set up. No, my work schedule and my husband's work schedule is set up.
The way I
But,
personally designed my life, it just doesn't work. Have you heard the
yeah,
concept of
right.
1% better? You walk into a room and just
No.
make it 1% better. I don't know what book it was that I use this new app. I don't think I've told you this. It's called Headway, and basically it does
Okay.
a summary of the main bullet points. I'm literally about to like tout this. I need to become an affiliate marketer for Headway because I tell everyone about it. So you can read an
Headway,
entire
okay.
book in 10 minutes. Like it really is it
Oh,
and
wow.
it'll read it to you, which counts as reading, everyone. It does count as reading. Audible, all that stuff counts as reading. But it I don't remember what book it is, but basically you go into a room and you make it 1% better. So whether it's like you pick up something, it just one little thing, just make it 1% better. That's it. That's the goal.
Okay.
And it really helps me navigate life on days where I don't have as much energy. Just to know that I did intentionally put in effort, I think is so great. And honestly, I think part of the conversation with Allison made me think more about the efficacy and importance of body doubling. And I think what
Mm.
she's doing and doing it remotely is so wonderful for neurodivergent people so that you're not going into someone's space. There's no judgment. And I love that about body doubling too. Like you can talk to a person if you're cleaning or you can be silent and working together. We were just body doubling right before, you know, getting on the mic. So
Yes,
I
we were
think
as well.
having that accountability piece is also something that is really important. And I know a couple other people had talked about that too. Like I know Annika comes to mind, just the fact of having a safe space and a safe person and doing things in community, I think is really important. And Andrew, oh my gosh, Andrew talked about the importance of community and the community that he's building. And oh my
Yes.
gosh, he is so funny. And I love how much he wants RFK Jr. out of office. I feel like he was like the original pioneer. Honestly, truly, I believe this was like the original person to be like, this man is toxic. We need him out of office. He's not a healthy person, physically,
No,
mentally,
I know,
emotionally.
right, exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
and
the pinnacle of health leading the Department of Health and Human Services.
did you see him
Just
walk out
man,
of the room when somebody passed out the other day
the
in
fact
the
that
Oval Office?
no,
I
I
think it
didn't.
was. Oh my God, it was horrible.
I
Yeah.
did not. Oh,
And
yeah, he probably not CPR trained or first aid certified
who
or
knows?
first
Who
aid
knows?
trained or CPR certified.
I'm not
Regardless,
making judgments.
yeah,
I'm only speaking on facts. And that person has consistently told us to not take any medical advice from him. So, and I know we post
fair
that a
enough.
lot on
That
threads.
is a
It's just a
fact.
reminder. We should
Yes.
really be following that direction. Um,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
anyway, I love that,
I'm
but
gonna match your fact with a strong worded opinion, and I appreciated that Andrew matched hi his energy and my energy match. Your energy and my energy match. So it felt
yeah,
like the dynamic trio, even though dynamic implies two, but it was really helpful. And
yeah.
I also feel very strongly about um, supporting him in his endeavor because I don't need to take credit as long as the end goal is the same. RFK Jr. is not the head of the DDHS, DHHS. That's it. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, hear
I
you
just
on that. And
I
but the
I
other
love that
thing.
he
Oh, go
approaches
ahead. Sorry.
everything with like sorry, no, I was just gonna say I love that he approaches everything with like humor and sass and honesty and
Yes, yes.
transparency. And as a therapist, I I feel like it's this thing that's now happening is that people are posting their beliefs so that people know transparently. I never thought about how important it is to go into therapy knowing the type of person that the person is and how helpful that can be and how it can
Oh,
immediately
well
create
said.
safe space. I never thought
Well
about that.
said.
And being a neurodivergent person, like that must feel so much safer to know because I feel like we've heard like they want like people want to know plans. They want to know what they're getting into. It's really important for transparency. A lot of our guests have talked about that and I think that Andrew makes it very safe for those people. And he makes it safe for
Mm,
neurotypical people to learn too. And I also love that Andrew shared a piece of his own journey talking about
mhm.
previous social media handle, um, and talking about why
Yeah,
neurospicy is so problematic and, um, you know, talking
that
about
learning
Callie and their
or unlearning.
impact on learning and how these neurodivergent people are learning from one another and how learning isn't always easy, which we talk about constantly. And
Or
I think
comfortable.
Andrew was a singular human being that I'm so excited to have him back on again sometime because I love learning from him.
Well, and he also, openly talked about how he went viral unintentionally, and
So
whether you go viral intentionally or unintentionally, and that that leadership, like their messaging is critical, and using your platform for something impactful, like
mm.
beneficial change, how important that is. And it was really nice to see him doing that, but not just him. Then we had Jocelyn, who, my goodness, something
Oh,
I deeply
Jocelyn.
appreciate about Jocelyn, she says the hard things. She doesn't shy away from it. She
Mm-mm.
doesn't shy away from disagreement. And it can appear as conflict, but it allows people to check and question their own perspective and opinion. And she's definitely someone I've unlearned and relearned the most from this season based on her posts. And I appreciate that she wasn't shying away from the hard things, because those are the things I tend to have the most questions about, but am
Mhm.
often concerned about tiptoeing around the issue. And and I know you were talking about therapists just a minute ago. I think like Shirley displaying who she was very openly helped make me realize how important that is. But
Mhm.
also, when we had Sienna on too, they talked about how asking the question, like being curious for curious sake, like Jocelyn talks about the hard things, which I sometimes tiptoe around, but Sienna also reinforced that message. And it was nice to see that come back, because what Jocelyn was saying and is saying is so important. It
Yeah.
helps me learn and unlearn.
Yeah, I mean, I told you that I had been following Jocelyn for a while, and I don't here's what I've noticed. I think people who take offense to anything that Jocelyn says, um, if someone's taking something personally, like that Jocelyn is saying online, I think that they don't understand intersectionality enough, in all honesty. I
Mm,
think that it probably comes from a place of um, misogyny, or it comes from a place of discrimination or racism. I because anything that Jocelyn is saying is to get people to be more curious and to stand up for people so they feel accepted and seen. I don't think it's confrontational at
100%.
all. I think that what Jocelyn is doing is transformative. And I think that the way that she presents things is so clear. And I wish everyone were that clear. Um, and I think that what Jocelyn brings to the table is unlike anything that anyone else is doing in social media right now, where she's talking about things in a moment. She's talking about them in a way that is really easy to understand. And while some of it is personal understanding, it's also research based, it's fact based, it's not just opinion. And I think that that can be really threatening for people sometimes when you hit people with real knowledge and real research. And I think that anybody who feels threatened by that needs to really learn more about intersectionality, which I think Jocelyn did such a great job of explaining to our listeners this season. It might have been one of the transformative
Yes.
moments of the whole season, honestly, was her talking about that. Um, and then then we had Annika. So talk about personal transformation. Annika came on and Annika was like, Elayna, I think you might have ADHD. I was like,
Just
I
maybe.
don't think you're wrong. So I did. This is coming out for the first time officially where I'm saying this. I did go get tested. I was very curious. When we talked to our mom about it, mom was also like, I don't know, I probably have had ADHD, but why do I need to get tested? Blah, blah, blah. So, and I've been very curious this season up to that point where I was asking people, like, is self diagnosis like valid? I think it is, but I think one of the things that Andrew and Annika, we found out are really good friends. Um, they both kind of said that that's a good place to start, and that it's a good place to be curious about and kind of research more. And even Jocelyn talked about, if you know your friends are neurodivergent, why wouldn't you look it up, and why wouldn't you look up different ways that you can approach them, knowing that that's not their exact lived
Exactly.
experience. But
Right.
I go back to, I told Annika that I ended up sharing with her that I have ADHD tendencies, but because it does not impact my life um to the degree of someone who is neurodivergent, I'm not considered neurodivergent because I don't have ADHD. I just have ADHD tendencies. And so she and I had this really interesting conversation about how I feel like the reason that I am technically not diagnosed is because I have so many strategies, and my job is literally to come up with strategies for neurodivergent people that I think I just have so many strategies that it's not coming up the same. But Marissa, one of the things I really appreciated that you said this season was talking about how much I masked as a kid, and how Annika talked about how unmasking can be a very dangerous and unsafe process. Jocelyn talked about it too. And I know for me as a kid, I would go into a classroom, or to church or to school or somewhere, and I would, um, you know, be the best version of myself that I could be. And then I'd come home, and it was so much pressure on me throughout the day. And I didn't have the language, and I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't always easy. And I was really grateful to learn more about masking in the last few years, because of it just felt like I learned another piece of myself that I could forgive in myself, but also
Mm,
kind of just tell my younger self, like, I love you. I'm sorry that you went through that kind of thing. And also
sure.
help out other people who have to mask in situations and notice that now in a different way. Because I feel like I've always been good at being a safe space for learners, but I don't think I've always been able to be a great safe space for myself. Oh,
I think
thank
that's
you for helping me with that.
astute. I think that's fair, and I really like that conversation opened up my eyes, and I know for you it was like a lot of self-discovery. For me, it also was self-discovery because it made me feel safe and good feel good about my parenting and what I had often felt as though was just survival and like not having any other way. It's just where I'm at and what I need right now, but it doesn't always have to be that way, and some days it'll be easier and some days it'll be harder. And she also made me feel like experimenting with food could be fun. Um,
Yeah.
Despite all of the technical jargon, she's, so smart and so capable and so talented and researched and learned. But Miles now drinks out of an open cup, and even going back and re-listening, like, with Annika's help, I'm kind of exploring how I might be able to leverage that new skill because he finds it so enticing to support it with some additional nutrition, particularly fiber, but, yeah, like, I'm glad that you had such a compelling takeaway, as did I.
Well, also,
And then
going away from fed is best. to consumed is
Yeah,
best.
to consumed. Yes,
That
for
that
sure.
one
Yeah.
of the headlines of this entire season. Consumed is best. It
You
just
are in
feels
my
so
brain because that was
freeing.
literally
Oh,
the sticking point.
oh.
Yes, yes. Like, yeah. No, but exactly, because and you mentioned this in the episode, fed almost implies, like, you're forcing, but,
Mm,
like, consumed is, like, what someone is actually willing to tolerate, and what I consume and what my children consume are different, but that's true for any parent. Doesn't mean, like, there's nothing unique about that from a neurodivergent perspective. It's just, like, the tolerance and the sensory components that it's, like, absent from me, where I'm, able to manage more. But yes, the consumed is best. Ah, what a headline.
I know, I
That
love
really
that.
helped me. And then
Yeah.
we went on to Michelle, who was such a fun and sassy guest with such great style, a true New Yorker, which I've been following New York City, New York for lots of reasons, including the fact that I am so psyched about Zoran Mamdani winning against Andrew Cuomo. Now, that says more about my feelings about Cuomo, but I'm really excited, and I watched with bated breath, and I haven't felt this hopeful in such a long time. That said,
Mm,
going back to Michelle in our conversation, I really loved that she talked about, because when I find us posting or discussing things about neurodiversity, sometimes people focus on the wrong problems or getting everything right and then not having an
mm,
opinion. That said, still can be problematic depending on the direction that you choose, but you won't appeal to everyone and everyone won't agree with you. But as long
mhm.
as you're doing your best and what works for you, or even trying your best and trying to learn, and I took a lot of that away from that, and that displaying things proudly, like the messages that she has on her apparel, and she really built a brand for herself, and although I am not a neurodivergent individual, it gave me a whole lot of hope for based on what my children might be interested in and making that a pathway for them.
Yeah.
Took a
I
lot from
mean,
that conversation.
definitely a trailblazer. The story that she tells about the man on the train, I think it was. Was it a train? I don't remember
Yeah, or
exactly.
Subway.
Or subway. Um,
Yeah, that she saw,
she
and, like, what separates her from him.
Yeah, and seeing him talk to himself, knowing that that's how she talks to herself and that she's just one step away from that homeless person who is also schizophrenic. It's really powerful, and I think particularly with what we're navigating right now in the world, and what we're navigating right now in the United States, um,
Yeah,
it's really
government
important to think
shutdown.
about that. You're one step away. Well, it's also SNAP and the military
Yep,
family. It's
yep.
just everything. And I think knowing that everyone is one step away is really essential for people to understand. And I also think that the coolest part about from my personal experience with Michelle is the fact that the amount of systematic unlearning and media produced unlearning that I did, the most I did was with Michelle based on schizophrenia. Based on I think I felt like I knew a lot about mental health, but I don't think I ever put schizophrenia in as part of that because schizophrenia felt so singular to me, um, as opposed
Mm.
to people when they talk about anxiety or depression, or I'm sorry, OCD, like different things like
OCD.
that. I I didn't I just didn't approach schizophrenia with the same way, and I think her being so open and vulnerable and honest and raw about everything that she goes through and answering questions that even she talked about, like, yeah, I can drive. Yeah, I'm filming outside right now. Like, yes, I live a relatively um average existence in a lot of ways. But there are some other things, and she doesn't want people to be afraid, and she wants people to understand, and the only way you can do that
Right.
is by being in a place where you can share. And not everybody can, but Michelle does. And that is just so rewarding to be a part of this process of learning and unlearning from her. And I really loved that. And then we had Mark. I just love Mark. Mark runs a podcast called Neuroshambles. which is about neurodivergent parenting. And he has 3 kids with very, very different personalities and very, very, very different brains and lived experiences. And he talked a lot about PDA, which was the first time we really talked about that. And I thought that that was a massive takeaway, the difference between PDA and ODD. Um, and I love the magic and the humor that he uses. Like, he
I
talked
know.
about
Agreed.
bedtime being magical for him. I don't know very many parents who say that every night. Because I
For
know for my
real.
kids, yeah, like, at the end of the day, sometimes bath time is not their favorite. And I
Uh,
just I think the way he approaches life is something that everyone can learn from, and I so appreciate that about him. I think that he made me feel empowered about parenting and doing things that are personalized for my family. My kids don't sit down at a table for dinner every night. Sometimes they stand up on their stands. My little one he likes to move, and I also can't constantly sit at a table. I like to stand when I eat. Like, that story that he shared about mealtime was so relatable. And I just
yes,
love learning from
agreed.
him and growing with him. I think is
I
so
have
fun
never
too.
appreciated bedtime. I agree with everything you said. I've never appreciated bedtime so much with my children more than
Mm,
after our chat with Mark because uh, to your point, it was sort of like I felt it was a task just to get through, but then the magic that the magical quality that he brings to his own experiences. And what an incredible dad with an awesome sense of humor that is clearly passing down to his kids because what he posts about quotes from his children, hilarious.
they're so
And
funny.
I've actually tried mauling, that mauling approach that he talked about. My youngest loves it.
I'm
He
sure.
also opened up my mind. Oh, right. But he also opened up my mind to ways to collaborate. Like, in
Yes.
addition to the mealtime, but like, especially with PDA, like the offering choices. And when my children feel obstinate in a moment, is it like there's an unmet need or like,
Hmm.
can I offer a choice? Can we be collaborative? And it feels a little bit harder right now because one of my kids is non-speaking, one of my kids are starting to speak. So, and I also hear now the repetition, like, how I must sound to my kids because one of my kids is speaking and one of my kids is not speaking. But did open my eyes to how I can be more collaborative as a parent, and I really appreciated that with all of the humor and grace and the wonderful accent. So,
I know.
and then what a great addition, and really major props to you for finding this individual. Ayana was fantastic. I mean, like, wish we coulda had her for even beyond what the appointment and that specific situation with the mammogram and all of that, but wow,
I
what
know.
a
I
great ad.
I could have an entire season with Ayana. So, very long story short, um, scrolling through social media, I followed Ayana, and she posted about her mammogram experience, and it was mind blowing. I ran out of the office, ran over to my husband and was like, "You need to look at this post. This is insane." Sent it to you, started talking to everyone about it, because we're a family of people who have had breast cancer, and it's a very important topic to us. Marissa constantly shares too that she has 2 neurodivergent children, my nephews who I love, and navigating healthcare can be really, really challenging. So,
Yeah,
um, we try to make sure that we all navigate as a team, but Marissa really is just incredible with finding resources and doing those things, but not everybody has that ability. Ayana talked about her father being that person for her. And what an incredible dad. The way she talks about him too is just so special. But when Ayana shared on social media her experience with a mammogram, it was so eye-opening and transformative to me that I asked if she could come on the podcast. I expected her to say no. It was a really quick turnaround. We were so grateful she came on.
for
But
real.
we talked about healthcare, and it needs to change. It needs to change for neurodivergent individuals. And just like we talked about with Carolyn and doing presentations differently and approaching the workplace differently, healthcare needs to change. It needs to change because Ayana went into a mammogram not having any idea what was going to happen. They didn't prep her with a packet. They didn't prep her with a video. They didn't tell her any of that stuff. She didn't bring her noise canceling headphones, the lights, the squeezing of the machine, the touching without response. And I've had a mammogram. So it is all very routine. Those people didn't do anything wrong. They also didn't do anything right. And I think that's the thing about healthcare that keeps missing is that healthcare needs to do things right. So why don't we just go into things assuming everyone's neurodivergent? I don't understand why people continue to not do that. If we go in to a doctor's appointment assuming, and I'm saying like as a nurse or a doctor, assuming that everyone's neurodivergent, tell them what you're going to do before you touch them. Tell them why you are touching them. Ask them to improve bodily autonomy. Ask them if you can touch them. Like there are certain easy things like that people can be doing. And I think Ayana was just an incredible proponent of that. And I'm just so happy that she came on.
Me too. A great ad. And I'm definitely more conscious about what I do and what I will tolerate, whether for me or my children in a doctor's office. Because to your point, we should have the foresight. We could talk about consent. Consent in a doctor's office is critical.
Right.
So,
always.
That said, she was an awesome find and would welcome the opportunity to connect further.
Yeah. And again, I think both she and Jocelyn talked about the complexities of intersectionality. And I just think that we need to be talking more about intersectionality in general. But another thing that I think came out of this whole season is how important parenting is. And so we're really excited to share with everybody that season 5 is going to be on parenting. And the reason is because we are new parents. We are still learning, but it's also because of how many people have inspired us this season to kind of look and learn and transform. And I think the complex realities of raising humans, whether we're navigating adoption, social media with teens, that's a huge thing I think it needs to be we talk about finding balance and overstimulating moments. We're going to cover it all. We're going to share stories. We're going to have experts on. We're going to share insights, practical strategies. We just want everyone to feel more supported, more seen in every stage of the journey of parenting. So join us, listen, learn, grow with us. So whether you're a new parent, a favorite auntie or uncle, a guide parent, a grandparent, a seasoned pro, a mentor, or even just someone who is part of someone's village. Like our younger sister is very much a part of our village. We are very excited to bring you this next season. It's going to be messy, beautiful, humorous, and transformative because that's what raising humans is. So we're very excited to bring that to you next season.
Yes, we're looking forward to having you back next season. And in the meantime, remember to stay curious and keep learning. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Everything is Learning. If you loved this episode, share it, subscribe to hear more awesome content, and let's keep the conversation going. Stay curious and keep learning. We'll catch you next time.